All right, welcome back. This is Jay Foreman inside the huddle. We got a special guest, T. Farley, in here.
What up, brother?
We don't get to do this much on air, so I wanted to ask you. Um, First, I'm gonna ask you about what you thought about the spring game. What's your first initial thoughts of the second year of Matt Rule? And did you see some progress, some things you want to see but done better? What's your overall thoughts on the spring game?
Well, spring game now is just a spring game. It's not like it usually be when we play. It's
Right.
a lot different. But I seen some things that I like, especially offensive. I seen some things on the defense I didn't like.
Right.
So it make you kind of wonder, how far they have to go. Rushing wise, I think they're pretty solid at running back. Got a lot of guys to choose from. I still think Emmett Johnson has the lead on that. You got to see how Ramir and Gabe Irvin do when they come back. So,
Right.
It's going to be very interesting to see how those guys compete once all of them are healthy. Receivers are deep. We got to establish that go-to guy. I know that's Banks probably, and he didn't play. But you got to look at the other guys, Jalen Dawes, Jalen Lloyd,
Right.
Malachi. It's like 8 guys I can name on that front. But overall, offense, I think they did a good job. I think offensive line still got a ways to go. Quarterbacks both of them, all of them have a ways to go. So I can't really just give it to Dylan right now. But if Heinrich can push him good, I think that'll be a good little duo.
Right.
So, but I like the offensive side. Defense, kind of mad because, now you're showing your weakness. And I think their weakness is passing. Last year they was a good rush team, but we didn't play a lot of passing teams. And when you put them out of space like that, they kind of gave up a lot of yards.
Right.
So, that's one thing you got to bend but don't break.
Right.
So, but I think defensive backs gotta have a better fall. They got to play a little bit tougher. I know they're not used to this 4 wide, 3 wide, just all this passing, just because last year was a predominant option run defense or run offense. But you got to get better and better. And I think Coach Rule is making them better overall. I mean, I like him. I think he's growing on me, but I still think they got a ways to go though.
Right. One thing I think people don't understand is that playing in space. We're just going to. I think, in my opinion, I think the defensive line, they got a lot of guys coming back. I think some of the younger guys are starting to push some of the older guys. Defensive backs is kind of like receivers. They got a lot of options to choose from. And they got some starters coming back that kind of gives you a little bit more ability to sleep at night. I think losing the 2 starters at linebacker, stack linebacker, like being used to play. The one thing you talked about facing, 3 wides, 1 tight end, 4 wides, because with the Pac-12 coming in, talk about that because you were excellent in space. Talk about what it takes to play in space. It's not just line. I think sometimes people think you just line up out there and you got to be fast and quick. Talk about what goes into the mindset of playing in space.
Well, especially on passing downs, man. I think one thing we was taught, Jay, and you was good at dropping back too. So you got your interceptions, but we always knew where we was going. It was curl hook, curl flats, curl hook, or just something like that. But the main thing is putting a hand on that inside receiver. Right. If you could throw him off his route, you're helping your safeties out. You're helping your corners out. You're helping that middle linebacker out. And I don't think these guys been coached that good to know how to put your hands on somebody and knock them off their route and still to continue to have your momentum and drop the same. Right. And I think that's being need to be done over practice.
Right.
So, you got to practice that and you got to keep reminding yourself, hey, I got to get a hand on that receiver right quick. But don't let them just run down there, just run down there and catch the little dump pass. I mean, you hit them and you get a little push and shove them, just do something and knock them off his route. I mean, you helping the whole team out, though.
One of the things I think that, Coach Sam, before you got here, because I was playing outside linebacker, and then I was with Coach Bo and Coach McBride, they taught us a lot about splits. Yeah. Talk about that because I think when you bigger dude out there trying to cover these little pipsqueak receivers or these big fast receivers, you got to give yourself a chance to know where they're going beforehand versus just like I said, I think sometimes linebackers all across the country just line up out there and hope the quarterback throw to them. Yeah. Talk about recognizing splits along with the down and distance.
Well, you got that down and distance is a killer. I mean, you gotta know that.
Right.
You gotta see their tendencies of what routes they want to run. It might be a 15-yard hook, might be a 15-yard in. As long as you can get in that zone or get in that tunnel vision or even that space where they at. I mean, it's kind of hard, but it's easy. But Jay, we practice over this stuff. I mean, this comes from summer workouts when we did the 7-on-7s. I mean, we did this stuff and we was good at it then.
Right.
We didn't have to be taught to learn how to pass drop.
Right.
We was just taught how to hold on to the ball once we caught it. So that's one thing we had to do, though.
Yeah, I think that one of the things also what made us really good was communication.
Yeah.
We friends off the field, but talk about the importance of communication pre-snap, and even during the play, because we would have different calls that we had to make sure that that I had to make sure you got where you need to go, and vice versa. Talk about the importance of communication.
Oh man, communication is probably one of the biggest roles to playing on the defense. I mean, everybody got to have communication. I mean, me and you didn't play in the same room, but we know what a banjo was. We know what a pick was. I know on a pick, I had to take your man and you had to take my man. So if that tight end come up and that back flare out, I said, Jay, pick with me, pick. So when that back flares out, Jay, you run and go get the back. I get your tight end right there, and I'm in it. Either way it go, we both on task because we'll be able to stop that run. I mean that pass because we're in that lane. I mean if they threw it straight to that back, I guarantee you're hellified one-on-one tackle. So we're not worried about that. If that tight end runs a 5-yard out, I'm gonna be right there on them. So we're not worried about that. But like I said, you got that communication is the main part. Even with the strong safety and free safety, you got to know what they calling back there because sometimes it affect the front.
Right, and make us play better. Like knowing that we have a safety coming down, whether it's directly, immediately in the run game or delayed, that allows us to play either slower or faster.
Yeah,
and that's what I think they're going to try. They need to really harp on from today. They need to be starting on it today to the season is getting better at the little things. And one thing I wanted to talk to you about, just flip to more like personal stuff. I think people don't recognize what type of dominant player you are. And I'm thinking about the draft now. The draft is there, and it's timing's everything. And seeing these guys and their stats, and I'm like, man, my boy over there runs circles around him. And then obviously with you possibly getting into the Nebraska Hall of Fame, talk about your mindset of playing, because I think people don't understand the mindset, what it takes to come in and make an impact, right? Because you came from JUCO, it's a big step up, right? Guys are bigger, faster, and stronger, but immediately you was making plays. Talk about that, because it takes the confidence to go out there and fail, answer it, and then go out and be even better.
Well, I always play it. I'm that type of player where I know that I got to do something big. And it's like a dream though. Sometimes at night I go to sleep and I say, "Hey, this fumble right here might be mine." I just play football, man. I love football, and I knew I wasn't a real linebacker, but in my head I was. So even when 205, I still thought I was a 250-pound guy, and I always wanted to play like that. So and it comes from playing with guys like you, Jason Peters, Christian Peters, Jared Talmadge, Doug Coleman, Phil Ellis. It's just all y'all. I mean, all 15. It's like 15 of us, Jay. And we play at a level that probably nobody will ever take away from us. And I had to play on y'all level. Y'all didn't have to play on my level. I had to raise my stuff because I came from the JUCO. So and coming from junior college, I was the man there. So and it's just carry on that I just want to be something. It's like when they first gave me 43. Somebody said, "Oh man, that last dude broke his neck that wore that thing." I said, "Well, I guess I'm gonna make it a number then." And then to come there and come to the games my senior year and see little kids with number 43 on, it's just a bigger compliment. And something that I just I did it with a team. So I'm not that selfish that I still a fumble from you or something like that. But,
we know you. Hey,
I'm always gonna give my boys the props.
Johnny on the spot, man. And one thing I was listening to was talking to Dominic Rayola, Dylan's dad, and he was talking about Georgia high school football, and we go back and forth about it. But I have friends down there. I know George Foster, that he played at Georgia, and so we do rap about it. And I do believe there's a different intensity and a different type of football. Talk about that, because I think that's a part of your instant success. Not only going from high school to JUCO to Nebraska. Talk about your upbringing and playing in that Georgia type of football, because it's intense down there.
Oh yeah, I played on a high school football team. Probably it is not good right now. Not like Carver or Columbus.
Right.
But we was one of the teams that beat them, and we used to do what we call power blocking. Right. And it was like 9 on 7.
Yeah.
And we would do the bull ring, and
right.
But for me, it was just that different kind of football down there. We was a power football team, and we ran the wishbone, and we didn't pass, so that made us good at going against the rush.
Yeah.
But I think just being competitive all through high school, especially when you go play these other little towns and these other little cities that bleed football, and like Beaufort High School, man.
Right.
That's a high school probably been winning for 30 years now. Right. That Will Riola went to, and they's a 2A team,
right? Believe
it or not, and we was a 3A team.
Right.
And back then Georgia only went to 4A, but now Georgia is 7A.
Right.
So you got and those small schools that you take out and put them up in the conference or two, that they still winning.
Right.
So I wouldn't say it's a different football. We always wanted to keep up with the Floridas and the Texas teams, because we always hear, oh, they better than us. No, I mean, it's just when we play, we just want to beat you.
Right.
And we always want to prove that we the best.
Right.
So it's I just say it's a different kind of football down there, because we got spring ball down there also in football. So that gives us a little advantage.
Up,
so it's still I still think we don't get the props like we should.
Right.
But we coming.
Right. Hey man, I'm gonna get you out here on this, man. I want to know what your I always ask guys this. What's your fondest or your best memory of playing at Nebraska?
Oh man. There's a lot of them.
Right.
There's a lot of them.
I mean, we was fortunate because we this every year was one, but I always ask guys this because I think it's there's always just the moment. Maybe the better question is, what's the moment was like, all right, I see what Nebraska's about. I see like I'm here, like I'm part of.
I think the first game, man, Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
I picked off a pass and took it back about 29 yards, and I said, shoot, this is football.
Right.
I didn't know he was going to throw it, but, the luck of God, I caught it and ran it in. But, man, we was just so dominant, man. It's so many games that we got good memory of just playing against Kansas at nighttime in Daytown, and went down there and spanked them and with that quarterback talking smack.
Yeah, old Nebraska player too.
Yeah, so, it's just all games got good memories.
Right. Yeah, man. This is good. We never get to sit down and wrap it up because we're on at different times.
We Coach Bowl, boys.
We had to adjust with Coach Bowl, man. I mean, if you could handle Coach Bowl back then, I will say this: I think he's a different Coach Bowl than he was when he first started.
He was a young whippersnapper.
He was definitely young and trying to whippersnap some stuff. But again, though, I think as we get along in this process, man, we get towards the thing. We got to get my man T. Farley in that Hall of Fame. That's where we need to be up in there, man. So we're gonna get there. Yeah, we're gonna get it sooner or later. We're gonna keep putting out there and put that energy out there, get the station behind it. But appreciate you stepping in, my brother. I want to get your mind. I know you got.
Garage doors can be expensive. Are you keeping yours in the best condition possible? This is Cameron Hall with Doors Plus. Doors Plus is a locally owned business that prides itself on the fast, reliable, and friendly service. Doors Plus offers flexible scheduling so you can book an appointment that fits your busy day. My team and I will come out to your property, both commercial and residential, and provide you with the necessary information you need to make sure your garage door is in working and smooth condition. Give Doors Plus a call today at 402-590-5800 to book an appointment and learn more about our preventative maintenance plans. Doors Plus, garage doors, and more.
Unearth the secret to long-lasting tires at Tread's Central Tire Pros, a league apart in commitment, service, and expertise. This isn't just about rubber meeting the road, but trust, safety, and surety converging in perfect harmony. This is where expectations are exceeded every time. Make your appointment today at Tread Central Tire Pros just south of Cortland on Highway 77, or visit our website to explore our services. Remember, when it comes to tires, choose Tread Central Tire Pros because we tread differently.
At Doane University, we build leaders, and that means your success and achievements come first.
At Doane University, your future is uniquely yours, and our world-class liberal arts education is just the beginning.
We invite you to schedule your campus visit and experience why Doane University will start you on your journey to your future career.
Learn more by scheduling your personal campus visit today at doane.edu/visit. See you soon.
Hey Nebraska! Register today for the 40th Annual Cornhusker State Games, taking place July 11th through the 21st in Lincoln, Omaha, and other Nebraska communities. The Cornhusker State Games features 70 sports for athletes of all ages and abilities. Price increases are approaching, so register early and save. For details, go to cornhuskerstategames.com. If you've experienced a sports injury, joint or back pain, trust your care to Nebraska Orthopedic Center, a proud platinum partner of the Cornhusker State Games.
Hi, my name is Molly Party. I'm a realtor with MP Dodge Real Estate. I'm a newly licensed agent and considered numerous brokerages before deciding on MP Dodge. I chose the company that gives me the most support in my new career, plus guidance and encouragement along the way. MP Dodge has a unique mentoring program for new agents. It's helped jumpstart my career and has a supportive management team and administrative staff. So, if you're contemplating a career in real estate, look no further than MP Dodge. It will be the best decision you make.
At Union Bank, people don't have your money. Your money has people. First home people, investment people, people who answer the phone and your chats, dream car people, dream retirement people, driving your dream car in your dream retirement people, small business people, credit card people, and all the other people you need. At Union Bank, our people help you do more than you dreamed possible. So stop in and say hello. We can't wait to see you. Union Bank and Trust. Member FDIC.
Hello? Believe it or not, old phones are one of the most common pain points in offices today. Many of these phones are beyond repair because parts aren't available to fix outdated devices. Whether it's a traditional phone system or cloud-based VoIP technology, Hamilton Business Phones can help upgrade your connection. We make it easy to sync your office phone with yourself for seamless call handling, no matter where you work. If your current office phone can't do this, you deserve better. Hire your local experts. Hire Hamilton at hamiltonisbusiness.com.
Whether you're looking for a place to stay for a concert at PBA, a Nebraska home game, or just a night on the town, the Courtyard Lincoln Downtown Haymarket is the place for you. Enjoy an evening at one of many restaurants or bars within a short walking distance. Business travelers at the hotel will enjoy free high-speed internet access, a 24-hour business center, and large in-room workstations. And check out the Bistro, where you'll enjoy healthier food and beverage options, as well as high-tech conveniences. Book your room today at the Courtyard Lincoln Downtown Haymarket.
Hi, Sean Callahan here for Koppel Chevrolet GMC, and our annual spring sales event is now underway. We have absolutely huge savings right now at Koppel. New Sierras and new Silverados have a double whammy. Choose from APR starting at 1.9% or discounts over $9,000. Yes, that's right, 1.9% APR or discounts of over $9,000. So please take that short money-saving drive down 144th Street just south of the interstate, or check us out online at koppelcars.com. You'll be glad you did. All deals with approved credit.
Several irrigation contractors in Lincoln go out of business every year, leaving sprinkler system orphans, begging for service. The folks at Judson Irrigation shed a tear for these little fellas. They've been coddling these orphans for more than 40 years. From redesign, repairing, replacing, and restoring, remember the Judson Irrigation Orphanage.
Call the Judson Irrigation Orphanage 402-420-6277 or judsonirrigation.com.
24/7 threat monitoring, expert tech support, streamlined communications. Allo has a solution for that. Protect your business with Allo Business. Comprehensive firewall security, Microsoft Teams voice-integrated communications, cybersecurity and IT support managed by experts. From productivity to peace of mind, Allo has a solution for that. Allo means business. Protect your business by visiting allofiber.com/business.
Rashawn Jackson here for Bauer Infrastructure, a veteran-owned local company proudly serving Lincoln, Lancaster County, and the surrounding areas. Bauer provides quality work at an affordable price, and they're growing rapidly. If you want to experience a career with a fast-paced, family-friendly environment, visit BauerInfrastructure.com. They have top-of-the-line benefits, year-round work, even through the winter. Bauer, usher in the new era of infrastructure to an area near you. And as always, go Big Red.
We're back. Old school, brought to you by the Mercado, certified Piedmontese, special ingredients and butcher shop. 2 locations in Lincoln, 84th and Havelock, 30th and Yankee Hill, 168th and Maple up there in Omaha. We have a special guest. He likes to think of himself as special, Nick Sainer.
I have never referred to myself as special.
Our ticket zone. He doesn't refer to himself as special. He actually refers to himself as Mr. Nick Upgrade Sainer. And if you don't know, Nick it was at this time just getting done with college, or maybe still in college, and hadn't traveled that much. And he traveled with myself, that have traveled quite frequently, and like to think that I had some sort of status at the different hotels, and I was blessed enough that the ticket took care of us to go up to Colorado last year, and I was staying on site.
Yeah,
but somehow, some way, before we get into the sports talk, Mr. Nick had me waiting in the car for 15 to 20 minutes. And came out, and he got upgraded to the presidential suite.
It is true. Shout out to the residents in Boulder. I was not on site though. You were able to be on site. You were able to be on site. I actually had like a 15-minute drive to Folsom Field.
Right.
But no, it was good. It worked out. I mean, we only were there for one night, so it didn't matter a whole lot.
But it didn't matter though, because here's the deal. Here's the details that he's leaving out, and I always say that the gold is in the details. So I was staying on site, and it was kind of a last minute thing to where they were able to get me on site. And I thought, okay, well, cool. I'll be here. I can always be accessible, step in some other shows, so forth and so on. Me and Nick were riding together. I actually picked you up because you were there the day before.
I flew in the day before.
So I was your Uber driver.
I ended up taking your rental car.
Yeah, you ended up taking my. Just that I get the rental car because I'm actually over 25. Nick's not over 25. I pick him up. I had to make sure he had got breakfast. I'm his Uber driver. We get there, and so I'm staying on site. I think I upgraded. Right, great place, great hotel.
Yeah,
big shout out to Blur and everything, and Jake Sorensen. Everybody had us all taken care of. I walk in there. Nick's like, let me check out your room. I have 2 queen beds. Now, we're both. I'm 6'3", 250 pounds, 55 pounds. I'd like to have a king bed. Now I got 2. Now it's fine. Now we take Nick over there. He's like, Jay, you need to come check out my room. So as I walk in there, the nice lady at the front desk acted like she was talking to like the head coach of Nebraska. Oh, Mr. Sainer, this, and this. Go. And then it wasn't a regular elevator, people. It was a special elevator that you go to the presidential suites. Now, walked in, Nick had a beautiful room. He had a regular room with a living room.
I had the living room, and then I walked into my actual room.
Walked into the actual room, had to walk out on the balcony, beautiful the mountains, had the walk-in shower. Here's the caveat before we get into what Nick's thoughts on the spring game. Nick had put the lock on.
Yeah.
And didn't know how to put take the emergency lock off. So I had to use my experience for Mr. Inexperienced, Mr. Upgrade, to get us to the elevator. But nevertheless, a good trip. Always a pleasure to have you on, though, Nick.
I was bummed that we were only there one night. I would have loved to stay in that room for 3-4 nights.
And I'm sure Nick, somehow they would say, the next 3 nights are on us, just comped it, right?
I just got to find a reason to get back to Boulder.
Yeah, man. And well, anyways, Nick, I wanted to ask you about the second year of Matt Rule. There's been a lot of change in the roster. I felt like obviously we knew the biggest flip probably. Give me your opinion. I say it's probably the biggest recruiting flip in probably the last 15 years.
I also wouldn't go. I don't think it's too far to say it's one of the biggest flips in college football history.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that. Back in the day where, when people were getting paid, Marcus Dupree was supposed to go to Texas. Next thing you know, Oklahoma shows up with it. We're talking about in modern day recruiting service. It might be, I'll even take it a little bit step further. 20 to 25 years because of the timing.
Well, it's the timing, but then I also think it's understanding the programs, right? Like Nebraska hasn't been a national powerhouse. They haven't been. And not only did Dylan Raiola necessarily say no to Nebraska once, he said no to him twice with Ohio State early in the process and then eventually Georgia. So I think understanding the programs and where they were at, understanding what programs were kind of in his final list of schools. And now ultimately, like the dad playing here factor was certainly a big part. Certainly the coach, or excuse me, his uncle Donovan being the offensive line coach probably plays a part into it too. But I think a lot of this was centered around Dylan too. I think certainly the family ties played a factor, but I think a lot of it was Dylan wanting to kind of, as they say it, and I hate to say it because it's so cliche and overused, but blaze their own path, right? Or create their own legacy. I think that's part of Dylan Raiola, because he, as we saw Saturday, has the ability to start anywhere.
Right.
Whether it's Georgia, whether it's Alabama, Ohio State, or even a place like Nebraska.
Right. And, before we dive into Dylan personally, and we'll get into all three quarterbacks, my opinion is, even though we have one quarterback returning, Heinrich Haarberg from last year, the whole quarterback room looks significantly different than last year.
Yeah, well, there's even prior to Matt Rule, like with Adrian or even Taylor Martinez or even Tommy Armstrong, there was these dramatic drop-offs between QB1 or quarterbacks, the starting quarterback, and QB2 or QB3.
Right.
And it feels like Nebraska fans are so accustomed to Nebraska's quarterback room experiencing an injury to their starting quarterback that either you need to lean on somebody in that room other than a starter for at least one game, or as we saw last year, for a lot more than one game because of injury / turnover issues. So Nebraska, it feels like for the first time, obviously with the two freshmen in that room, Raiola and Daniel Kalen, they have two elite 11 quarterbacks, which if you get into the high school, what do I want to say, accolades, that's one of them to hang your hat on. But then Heinrich Haarberg, who I think we saw under Glenn Thomas has been dramatically improved over the last couple of months. I still think the quarterback decision has been made. I think the quarterback battle is won, but that hypothetical drop off between QB1 and QB2, I think, is much smaller now than maybe it used to be in years past.
Right. And let's talk about Heinrich Haarberg. I mean, I always say, I was just talking about this on Inside the Huddle, which comes on every Sunday, usually at 11 a.m., sometimes at 7 a.m. And I was talking about it that actually it's three new quarterbacks, because I feel like Heinrich Haarberg, actually his second year actually getting coached. He got coached last year by Marcus Satterfield, kind of thrown into the fire, burst on the scene just a year ago through spring. He was in a lot of the highlights, and and he played a big role, the first game of the year. He had the first catch really of the season last year. But I think the work in a short time that Coach Thomas has been here, he looks like a different quarterback. So when you look at that room, you're getting another player. What was it that you saw from Heinrich Haarberg that looked a lot different or a lot better compared to some of the times that it probably wasn't up to snuff last year?
I think the mechanics, just simple mechanics, whether that's footwork. Nebraska, once again, going back even before Matt Rule, quarterbacks haven't had the best footwork, right? You remember Taylor Martinez always chucking it off his back foot. And even times last year, whether it was Heinrich or whether it was Jeff, arm slots are really just funky from Heinrich. I thought his arm slot and his position was much better on Saturday than maybe what we saw last year. We know the arm that Heinrich Haarberg has, right? We know what kind of athlete he is as well. Thought there were times maybe last year where he quickly resorted to the run. Part of that may be an indication of or indicative of Nebraska's receivers in 2023. I think Nebraska's wide receiver room is much more improved in 2024. But in terms of just Saturday, and obviously a small sample size, but the little pieces that I've been able to see in spring practice and stuff as well, just feels like he's a much more foundationally solid quarterback in terms of mechanics, fundamentals, arm slot, things
knowledge
like
of
that.
The offense.
Just understanding, all right, what's the best thing for the offense in this position. We saw it Saturday in the spring game. He took off and ran a couple of times, and one of them was a really long run, which is great. You don't want to rely on that. And I think that's one thing with like the RPO that I want to talk to you about at some point is like Nebraska's always ran this RPO type of offense, but which is as of recently, which is like obviously the run pass option for those that might not know. Such an important part of that is having a quarterback that can make split-second decisions.
Sure.
And Nebraska hasn't had that.
Right.
It felt like, number one, Dylan Raiola did a really good job at that on Saturday. But even Heinrich Harburg, you kind of saw him processing a little quicker on Saturday, which is an improvement from last year.
Yeah, I always say in any sport, you want to play fast and not in a hurry.
Yeah.
And I think the RPO, when it first burst on the scene, you got to think, I always think Taylor Martinez, that 80-some yard run against Missouri. And obviously he was extremely fast.
Yeah, there was a lot of them.
Yeah, straight ahead. But that was like, oh, this dude is can pick him up and put him down. But I think the best RPO teams can establish conventional run that the RPO benefits off of. That means everything kind of looks the same. And I think with Heinrich Harburg, one thing I've seen from him, which I saw a couple throws where he maybe reverted back halfway to what he did, but he self-corrected the next time he was throwing it. So that lets me know it's a conscious decision and effort to get better and to become a better quarterback. So now a better Heinrich Harburg, that means you're going to get a better Daniel Kaelin. This is the next guy we want to talk about. Daniel Kaelin was a Missouri commit.
Yeah.
And he has a funny story, or not a funny story, but a different story. You got to think Daniel Kaelin, when he was a freshman, was on JV at Bellevue West, went down to a camp, I think, in Florida State, got a Florida State offer. The quarterback coach here, Mario Verduccio, was it Verduccio?
Verduzco.
Sorry, offered him.
Yeah.
Was somewhat chastised for doing it by somebody higher ranking. Kind of the offer was pulled, but then he burst back on the scene, and some things lost traction. He wasn't really probably ideally the fit that they wanted with the prior side, because you got to remember Mark Whipple got the quarterback from Massachusetts. Remember that he had the connection with.
Right. Yeah.
And then so they kind of passed on Daniel Kaelin. Missouri, who, hey, with our boy, stand on business down there, has a good quarterback and has put guys in the league. He committed there. But the one thing Matt Rule and those guys, they must have kept some sort of line of communication open when they got here. And then he came back and committed. It was a great get, a legit 4-star recruit. 2 of his teammates are coming. Showed the drastic improvement from his junior to senior year. And I think he really started off spring on a hot streak, and showed some good signs yesterday, or not yesterday, but Saturday in the spring game.
I think also with Daniel Kaelin's recruitment, like, people might forget that. How did we start this conversation off, Jay? Talking about how Dylan Raiola was the biggest flip in college football history in the modern day. If that wouldn't have happened, Daniel Kaelin was the highlight of this class in terms of the quarterback.
Yeah,
right.
Well, because you flipped him from a legit top 12 team.
Yeah, in the SEC.
Yeah,
and that's the thing is we put this label on Missouri of, all right, Missouri might not be this great of a program because we're from in the last 15 years not accustomed to them having so much success. Elia Drinkowitz, as we kind of talk about every now and then, has gotten that program up and rolling pretty well. I think also with Daniel Kaelin, just what a strange recruitment it was for him, because he had to play, I don't want to say second fiddle, but frankly, the staff had to figure out a way to prioritize both Dylan Raiola during those times of not being committed to a specific school, and then also Daniel Kaelin, where it was, okay, understandably so, Nebraska's going to prioritize the number 1 quarterback in the class. But also, don't forget, we have this 4-star guy in our backyard less than an hour away that was one of the more accurate passers at that Elite 11 camp. I believe he actually was the most accurate passer.
And he wanted to, he's always wanted to come to Nebraska.
Always wanted to come to Nebraska. And so not only the first time around in Nebraska, maybe do him a little bit dirty with a previous staff, but the second time around, they said, we're going to have to go in a different direction because we feel that we have a shot at Dylan Raiola. And so then he does his own thing, commits to Missouri. Well, Dylan Raiola doesn't go to Nebraska, and it's okay. Hold up now. We gotta have another conversation. Just the timeline and just the path is very unconventional and unique. Now, granted, Daniel Kaelin probably had opportunities to go elsewhere right before signing day, right? In that couple of day period where you kind of knew, or we had kind of heard, all right, Raiola was going to be a Husker, and officially the signing day, he had conversations with Michigan State, but Michigan State brought in Aiden Childs from Oregon State, who followed Jonathan Smith to East Lansing. And so you sat there and went, okay, well, you feel like maybe he's kind of stuck in Nebraska, and you kind of wonder what the foreseeable future looks like for Daniel Kaelin. Ultimately enough, though, here he is. I think that number, as I mentioned earlier, I think the quarterback spot has kind of been determined at the starter. That 2-3, that second, that backup position is wide open, I think.
Yeah,
and Daniel Kalen has a great opportunity.
Yeah, and I don't think it's a foregone conclusion who's gonna start. I mean, obviously, it doesn't take a rocket science to see that Dylan Raiola, obviously, it's no different when Andre Johnson walked through.
Absolutely.
When I saw Andre Johnson walk, and we had some really good receivers, Nick.
Yeah.
And I've seen Bruce Smith, and we had got the likes of Marcellus Wiley at defensive end. Bruce Smith is just moving a little bit different.
Yeah,
that's where Dylan is right now. But I don't think it's a foregone conclusion. I think if I'm the quarterback coach, I'm still pressing you to get better because there's things that you can get better at. All the while, I'm saying, listen, Daniel, let's make up some ground.
Yeah.
Let's make up. So you've made improvement right now. Let's see what you really can do over the next 3 or 4 months. Obviously, if I had to start a game today, obviously I'd probably roll Dylan out there. But you're right, the 2-3 battle. And also, it's not just only the 2-3 battle. It could pay off because I'll keep going back to when Nebraska went on the road a couple years ago up there to Minneapolis to play the Gophers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Tanner Morgan, who is more of a drop back quarterback, play action.
Yeah,
been there forever. He's been there so long he started to look like PJ Fleck. But in the red zone, they brought in Kramer, who was RPO, but he was accurate enough that you didn't have to just only play him in red zone. You could play him what I call the green zone. That means from 25 to the 40-yard line. You could actually play him on the other side of the 50. And then what he did was he made the Nebraska team prepare for another option, and it paid off for him. Those roles to be defined. And I'm going to say this about the quarterbacks. All three. Well, we know Heinrich Haarberg can run it.
Yeah.
But Daniel Kalen and Dylan Raiola run it a lot more than people give it credit for because they think about the arms and the accuracy and all that. So I think overall, the whole spring game, I think they look like a better football team.
Yeah.
As much as people were mad at special teams there, you could take the kicking game with Tristan Alvano. That's something I think he'll correct. He's going to have to really get into it in the summer. But I think this is a funny thing. People are mad at special teams coverage. Well, you can't. If you have big returns, you can't be mad at the coverage. If you have good coverage, then you're going to be mad at there's no returns.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of, back and forth. I think the emphasis on blocking up front is obviously drastically improved. I think the willingness to put guys back there that are really willing to take the ball and run with it. We don't have it anymore to where we had Martin a couple years ago, and he was the all-time fair catch guy with the previous staff. So you got, I think, a little bit more aggressive approach on the special teams. And I think defensively, even though a lot of those guys were out, you see the depth. You see Shavers. You see Van Poppel. You see the guys that you heard about last year. They look a lot different in a better way, and they are starting to make more plays. So I think the depth is there, and to have options, I think, is a really good thing for Nebraska.
I definitely, I think a spot where maybe they have options as well as, wide receiver.
Oh, yeah.
I think a lot of options at wide receiver. Jamal Banks had a quiet day on Saturday, and that's fine. I mean, we're not going to, obviously write him off. I think last year, Jay, you and I have had conversations both on and off the air about, all right, you go out a couple of years ago, Samari Toure, now granted previous staff, Trey Palmer, previous staff have a pretty successful hit rate on those two guys. But then you follow that up with Billy Kemp, who obviously just signed the undrafted deal with the Giants. Congrats to Billy, but did not have as productive of maybe of a season as we were expecting or hoping for, but also was banged up at times. So being realistic there. Now, I think Jamal Banks has a higher ceiling.
Oh, for sure.
I also think he's starting with a little bit of a higher floor.
Sure.
Than Billy Kemp is. So that provides some excitement and optimism. I think then you bring in also Isaiah Nayor, who's intriguing on that side. But then not only that, those two guys, but it's the Jalen Lloyds and the Malachi Colemans, and just having those guys have a second year under their belt is big. And I also think we can clump the tight ends into this as well.
Sure.
The vertical tight end game, I think, is going to play a bigger part this year than maybe people thought initially, because we saw on Saturday they have guys that can block the perimeter, and they haven't had that. Nebraska's for so long, it feels like, for so long, I mean over the last 5-10 years, throwing those
bubble screens,
bubble screens horizontally, things like that. That's fine if you got perimeter blocking. Nebraska hasn't had that. They've had some soft guys on the edge. I mean, that's just being honest. I think there's going to be a lot of drag routes. I think there's going to be a lot of short crossing routes. So not only is that more important for that RPO game of making those split-second decisions, being on time, we maybe saw it a little bit on Saturday where things were just off just a little bit, and that's maybe some of those throws behind guys, just inaccurate passes. Some of those were catchable. But I think when you look at this wide receiver room, it's a lot of athletes, and I think that only plays into this hope of, all right, if you want to throw the bubble screens, if you want to throw horizontally, the short crossers, make a 5-yard, 7-yard pass completion, let them do the work and get some perimeter blocking on the edge.
Yeah, I think there's always two ways to get physical. Obviously, with your offensive line, you're going to set the standard and getting on guys and moving them, but you can also get physical extremely quick and fast out on the perimeter.
Yeah.
The emphasis by Coach McGuire of, no block, no rock, right? You got to block. You even saw a young freshman, Keelan Smith, locking up
Who's
guys.
That hybrid tight end wide receiver type of field.
But
out of Missouri, I believe.
Yep, out of Missouri. Set the edge, right? And so when you talk about that, whether it's Lindenmeyer, whether it's Borkacher, Fedoni, Carter Nelson coming in, fits right in there with this wide receiver tight end group where you have a lot of options, but you have to be able to do the job of blocking, from a physical standpoint. Now, what is that? That's an extension of your run game. It's something to soften the defense up to get the conventional run game going with the plethora of running backs that they have. And if they get Gabe Ervin back at any form or fashion to what he was, now you got a deep running back room. You got to think of the, Bonner as well, who had a really good game. He had 4 catches for 58 yards. He fits into like every skill position group on the offense. Running back, tight end, hybrid, wide receiver. He can be a matchup problem. I know Nebraska coaches should be happy about the options, and it should be more of an explosive offense. You've seen them have the ability to open it up a little bit more with all 3 quarterbacks. I feel like when you talk about Billy Kemp, not only was he banged up a little bit, but I thought they were a little bit strapped because of the inability to play pass and catch from the quarterback position. I certainly think they have that this year. I like the depth of the defense. I always tell them, look, the Monday after the spring game is so crucial. I know they have 2 weeks of finals, right? But we all knew you got to finish out school. The mindset and the quick switch to turn from spring game to getting ready for a real game is crucial for a team in a football program like Nebraska, because we can't afford a day off. We can't afford a week off. We can't ease into, now injuries aside, ease into the offseason summer program. We got to make up some ground. So then therefore we can start to get to the bowl game level and then get to a major bowl game level. It starts today. So hopefully they're taking that approach.
Yeah, I think so. One last thing. I know you mentioned the kicking game and Tristan Alvano. I'll say this. I mean, Jay, you and I have seen him make some big kicks in the stadium. In that stadium, I think I heard a comparison the other day of Drew Brown to Tristan Alvano.
Yeah.
I heard that comparison the other day. And I was going back and looking, and Drew Brown did not have a great freshman year, but Tristan Alvano went 27 for 27 from point afters, right? So like there's a piece there that you can kind of hang your hat on. And it almost feels like the farther out he gets, the more comfortable he is. It's those inside 40 yards chip shots that Nebraska really needs. Like those are going to be such difference makers, and can make. I think when you're a good team like Nebraska, they can obviously those field goals, those quote unquote chip shots will give you the ability to beat great teams.
Right.
If you find yourself in that game, now obviously you need the other 2 phases to really work, the offensive defense, but if that special team piece, I think so much of it is mental with Tristan Alvano.
Yeah. Well, that's what any kick.
It's not physical. I truly, because I think there was a lot of folks on Saturday. I saw a lot of social media reaction of, we need to talk about kicking. We need to talk about, I think if you're putting on our prediction hats, I don't want to speak for you, Jay. I think we're both, though, saying Tristan Alvano is the kicker and Brian Buschini is the punter when it comes to opening day in the fall. So with that being said, this is a big summer for Alvano, right? It's time for, we could kind of chalk it up to, year 1 of Matt Rule. Okay, that's fine. Year 1 of a kicker. You're a true freshman. It's a different stadium. The world wind's swirling at the Power 5 level, whatever. Year 2, you can't use those same type of, not cop-outs, but of reasons. And so this is a big summer, I think, specifically for Tristan Alvano to get over that mental hill or jump of being able to make everything from a 25-yarder to a 55-yarder, because we've seen him make more, it feels like 40 and up instead of 40 and down.
Yeah, I just think, like, look, a great comparison is Drew Brown. Obviously, he had to follow in his big brother's footsteps.
Yes.
Chris Brown, and Chris was great from the beginning, but people don't realize Chris missed a field goal early, and he had to tweak some things.
Yeah,
and everybody always compares, whether it's Alvano, Drew Brown, any kicker at Nebraska to Chris Brown, Henry, and all. Well, that's the end product that you were comparing them to. It's like a linebacker coming in here and getting compared to Jay Foreman or Barrett Root or Levante David.
Yeah.
We all had struggles. We all had to mentally get over a hump to really have confidence in ourselves. This is a huge summer for him. I think he's a good natural athlete because he played highly competitive soccer. So he's had to deal with failure. So I think he'll do a good job of coming back at it. But in closing, Nick, you're completely on point. The ability to get field goals when you need them, what does it do? It chips into deficits if you're down, but it extends leads. Think about the Wisconsin game. Think about the Maryland game. Think about Michigan State. Just think about those games if you can get down there. And I think the way that we're going to play football early is field position, physicality, get inside the 30, smart, decisive with the ball, try to run it. We need those 3 points. It's a big summer for Tristan Alvano as well as the rest of the Huskers. All three phases. Overall, I think I saw some progress in the spring game. I want to thank Nick Sainert from 93 the second and 93.7 the ticket, Mr. Upgrade, for stopping in here on Old School.
Appreciate you, Jay.
He will be back.